Good evening, everybody. Welcome again to another one of the programs of Let's Talk Music, RVA. I am your co-host, Charles Mans, and my partner there in crime is Mr. Bill McGee. How you doing, bro?
I'm hanging in there, brother. I think we have an exciting show today.
We are now on part 3 of our Rest in Peace of the musicians that come from the Richmond, Virginia area during the time of 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s. We're trying to cover those musicians that made a mark on the area during our time, Bill. When you were running around with Trussell in Petersburg and I was running around in Richmond with Brother Love Ujima, there was a couple of record stores in Richmond that carried our records. Not everybody. We have in front of us one of the legends from Richmond, Virginia, on Broad Street, downtown Richmond. That was Mr. Barky's record shop. And I always thought his name was Barky, but I just found out that is not his last name. I have in the screen there my brother Maurice, and I have Mr. Barky. So, Mr. Maurice, can you now introduce Mr. Barky?
For a lot of years, this man sitting next to me was and still is an important factor in the Richmond community. His real name is Barksdale Haggins, better known to the public as Barky.
It is absolutely a pleasure to have you here, both of you here. Maurice Hopkins, that is my brother. Maurice is from that same time frame. He's a couple years older than I am. And he was at Maggie Walker while I was at Armstrong. So he knew a lot of the musicians as well. We still got a long list of guys to cover right quick. We've already talked in part 1 about 40 people. We talked in part 2 about 62 more people. And now I've got another list of an additional 60 people. So we got to go through this real quick to make sure we mention these names, because it's important to mention the names of those who came before you that helped, that influence. And I can't think of a better group of folks to have with us tonight, Bill, other than Mr. Barky and Maurice to help us with that. What do you think?
Well, Mr. Barky is a legend, not in his own mind, but in our time. And I was so shocked to find out at one of our alumni meetings that Mr. Barky is a Virginia statesman also. So, you know, I wore my Virginia State outfit today specifically to honor Mr. Barky. Mr. Barky is going to help us remember some of the people here in Richmond who made a difference. Charles, can I start off with a question?
Yes, sir, you can.
Mr. Barky, did you ever or have a chance to meet a young lady named Rosetta Tharpe?
I was around during that era, during that time, because I'm 91 years old.
Wow.
I'm celebrating 91 Christmas. So therefore, I was around during that time, and she was very popular during that time, but I never had the pleasure of being in her company.
Well, she was good friends with a singing group here called the Harmonizing Four.
Yeah.
And I know you knew...
I was acquainted with them.
I know you knew those young men fairly well, too. How long have you had the store, Mr. Barky?
Let's see. This store was started when I was 22 years of age. As I said, I'm 91 now. So you subtract 22 from the 91 and that'll give me a lot. I've been around.
Have you been in this same?
Before you were born.
Nah, I don't think so. Have you been in this same location that whole time?
No, I started out on First Street. Where I started was when I went into business. I went up to the distributor here in Richmond, I told him I was going to open a record store, and he said, "No, you're going to be in business long." He said, "I'll sell you, but don't you come here when the other retailers are here making their purchase." So
wow.
We come real early in the morning and be gone by the time they get here.
Was that Joe's One Stop?
Well, Joe came after me. I was in business, and Joe was working at a furniture store.
Okay. Who was the record distributor then?
Allen Distributing Company.
You were talking about how difficult it was during segregation to buy your records from a distributor. When Pat and Dean got in business, was it any easier?
No, Dean wasn't in business. I was in business long before Dean.
Right.
Dean was ready for BP.
Right, but I mean, were they more integrated than the other older distributors? Because I used to buy from Dean, and I didn't get a chance to buy from Pat.
Long time. You came along a long time. I've been in business, I imagine, about 10 years.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And
Mr. Barky, of the musicians that used to come through there, I know recently, I just talked this morning to Mike Harris, who says he's been visiting you for many, many years. He brought up some names to me today. Tommy Coleman. You remember Tommy Coleman, the singer that used to sing with Mike Harris?
Yeah.
And what about Archie Henderson? You remember Archie?
He was there.
He was very entertaining. I remember that for sure. What about Tommy Edwards? You remember Tommy Edwards?
Yeah, I remember him, but I never met him.
He was from that I think Henrico County area, right?
Yeah, from out Glen Allen.
Who was the guy who used to skate? Who would skate? The guy would skate. He could say he could skate and dance and say.
Oh, that was Sterling Harrison. That was Sterling Harrison.
Sterling Harrison.
Sterling Harrison. And his brother Al Harrison.
Hey, Charles.
Yes, sir.
Mike Harris is here.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah. All right. Charles, we're going to bring the famous Mike Harris in to this conversation. He arrived, and your brother is willingly allowing him to take his place over there on the screen, which is good.
My question to Barky is, when Rosetta Thorpe was in her heyday, she had a manager. The manager she had at the time was Jimmy Roots. Jimmy Roots is the father of Desiree.
Desiree, right.
A big star locally now, and her brother, Dr. Arthur Roots.
Another name, Maurice, before you disappear completely, is Bobby Pondexter. Bobby Pondexter was a keyboard player in the Richmond area. Well, he started on saxophone when I met him in high school, because he and I went to high school together. He was a couple of years ahead of me at Armstrong, and he was playing saxophone. But then later he went on, switched over to keyboard, and then of course, he played for many years around the Richmond area. When I talked to Mike Harris this morning, he brought up a name for me that was Hugo Thompson and Harrison PEYTON. He also brought that name up as well. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Fantastic. The legendary trumpet player out of Richmond, Virginia, Mike Harris, is in the house. It is good to see you.
Historic, man. This is historic here. Hey, look, I talk to Hugo from time to time. Hugo's doing fine. And
which Hugo, Jackson or Thompson?
Hugo Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, Hugo Jackson has passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I talk to Hugo Thompson from Standing Room Only from time to time, and he and I talk, and he's doing
the drummer from Standing Room Only, Ernest Walker.
Oh yeah,
drummer.
Ernest Walker.
Oh
right.
my God, Ernest had a press roll like nobody else. I mean, he could press those two sticks into the snare drum head and just give a buzz straight out of it like a bee.
Who were the people in your band that have passed on when you first started out? And when did you first start out, Mike?
We got started right out of high school. A little small concert.
What year was that?
That was in 1959. The original band members, we started out with Marshall Johnson, who played drums. But Marshall was one of the first ones to pass. But Eugene Mallon, we called Boom, it wasn't too long after that. The Albert Mosley, he was a good job player. We had Tom Cole was the first singer that we added to the might have been paid. Might have been getting paid. It's I kind of graduated by I learned started out on the trumpet and tuning. I was playing trumpet. So when the group started, I was playing trumpet. And then I think it was back in 1963 as the group started growing and expanding. I was blessed to pick saxophone, and that's how I got the saxophone. I sort of took it up that year.
That's when you brought in Carlton Ayers.
And Carlton stopped playing for the girls. And who were married, one of it, he was one of the main leaders of transportation, and he started playing baritone sax. He played trumpet, and he started playing baritone sax. You had your group started tightening it up, and we started adding some players.
Where was Little Walter?
Little Walter was they were all there. I think Little Walter got started before you did.
Oh yeah.
Well, Mike, what happened was during that time when y'all first started, the quartet groups were big, but then James Brown and some of the other guys came on with all them horns.
That's right.
And then everybody had to have good fat horn section to be able to really do their thing. Hey, Mike, when I came back to Virginia State and started going to the Sahara Club and Cozy Cat Ebony Island, your group was a legend. You know, when they started talking about groups like that, they would say STACY and the Majestics.
Right.
And then you're going to start hearing Mike Harris and the Imperials. Telling you, you were a legend.
That's true. So true.
Appreciate that. But you know, you were talking about Virginia State. I started at Virginia State. I went to Virginia State.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I majored in music, believe it or not.
With Dr. Gatlin.
And I quit. I quit like a knucklehead. But the band was getting popular, and we were beginning to play out engagements, and my aspiration was to be a big-time recording artist.
You sound like me. That's what I wanted to be.
That was my aspiration, man, and we played a lot of high school proms, had opportunity to go to New York, to New Jersey, to Atlantic City. And we played with most of the recording artists. Matter of fact, a lot of the recording artists came to Richmond.
A couple of the names I want to mention right quick. That was a promoter, Frank Ware, lawyer. You used to call him lawyer. Yeah. And then, of course, Jimmy Harris was the manager over there at Ebony Island. And before him was Jimmy Winston at Sahara Club. Paul Barnett, or either Richard Fox.
Mr. Barky and Mike, who were the promoters that you remember the most?
Other than that, we played for Frank Ware more than the rest.
August Moon passed away this morning. A new name to add to our rest in peace list. August was a singer, a dancer, a performer, and a promoter, and record shop owner, and nightclub owner. He did a lot of things. But that word came to me first thing this morning that August passed late last night.
That's one form we all got to change. That's what made me change.
You were a noble guy. I mean, you didn't have nothing to change at all. That means you're doing something right. If you're doing something right, you're still around, my brother.
You look good, Charles. Come on, we around. I see you around. You look good. You're looking good, Charles.
Well, that means your eyes are going bad if I'm looking good. Yes, indeed. I tell you what, let me ask you this, Mr. Barky. If you had to guess, when the last time you sold a 45?
I can't remember when last time.
No, I give you one better than that. When the last time you sold an 8-track tape?
Let me tell you this, Charles. A fellow told me that he had a CD, and his daughter thought it was a record, like a 33 or 45 record when she saw that CD. Because she didn't remember. A lot of these children, we don't
a lot of changes.
45 or 78 or 33. So when she saw this CD, she thought it was a record.
Mr. Barky, I teach at Virginia State, and I took some 12-inch records that I had left over from when I produced the rap group here in Richmond. And I said, because I teach recording technology class at Virginia State. So I took some 12 inches down there to give them away to the students, figuring they'd be excited and they would keep them, as something like that. You know what they asked me? What am I supposed to do with this?
They didn't even know what it was.
They didn't know what to do with it. They were like, well, I don't have a record player, and so what am I supposed to do with it? I said, well, you keep it.
Memorabilia.
One day it'll be worth some money. Give it to your children.
In the 69, 70 years that you had that store open, Mr. Barky, there have been a number of changes over the years in the music business.
He was saying, Mr. Barky, that some of the people used to come sign autographs here at your shop.
Yeah.
Do in-store appearances.
In-store appearances, that's correct.
You did a lot of that, a lot of in-store. And that is what made your store one of the few outlets for Black music at that time.
And let me tell you this. That guy who told me, the distributor, when I went in business, he said, you won't be in business long. And at that time, there were eight stores, 8 record shops. And now all of them are gone, and I'm the only one around. And she told me I would be, and they're the ones that go. Even he's gone now. Even the distributor's gone.
That's because he did not know what you were made out of. All right. Okay. Okay, we're getting ready for part 2 of the show now. Okay, now I am blessed to have on the screen today 2 outstanding trumpet players from 2 different eras out of Richmond, Virginia. I've got on the screen today a record store owner and distributor. I've got legendary, and I've got on the screen today my big brother who's older than me by at least 50 years and know everybody.
Wow.
And know everybody. I mean, well known. So, guys, give me a little history about Richmond, Virginia and the entertainment business as it was then compared to going out to the party today. It has changed a little bit, don't you think, Mike?
When you had dances, whites couldn't come in. They could have. Whenever you played, was it ever integrated?
Well, when we played, but we were playing both, during that time.
Either you played for white, either you played for the black. But you never hit it.
Once in a while, you would see,
Yeah.
Maybe a few people going one way or the other.
Well, Mike, where would you all play at when you had like an integrated something? Was the place out there in Ashland integrated?
You mean some Jamaica club?
Jamaica Country Club.
Primarily mostly black.
Right.
Tantilla Garden.
Tantilla and Sahara, even Sahara Club had integration back in 1967 because I was there, and it only began to separate again right after the local riots after Martin Luther King was assassinated. That's when it went back to total separation. Even Sahara Club had a lot of the white kids coming over, and I played with a group out of the West End during that time, and Broad Street Tantilla, and up there by Hermitage, I think it's called Hermitage. All Queercusson Road, all those places up there. I played with a lot of groups over there during that time.
I think the integration of the schools had a lot to do with that. The first graduating blacks from a white school happened in 1965.
Wow.
With 9 students, black students, integrating George Worth High School. So the years that followed, 66, 67, you begin to see some integrated socialization.
It was 65 and 66 that Cornell went to John Marshall. He was with the first group of 6 kids to go to John Marshall.
Segregation had to go. They threw down Tantella.
Right.
They got drunk. They didn't want to create Tantella.
That's right.
But they were afraid to put the bowling.
Yeah.
Next, they freaking you want to come up there and want to be bowling.
Nothing was built past Willow Lawn till you got to Gushler. I mean, it was Short Pump. None of that stuff existed. All of that was, there was only one gas station in Short Pump.
That's right.
On 250. On 250. That's it.
Well, long before you got there were different segments of the city going west. At one time, Allen Avenue used to be the end of the city. Then it became the boulevard, the end of the city.
Right.
Then they began to, I think Sears and Roebuck had a store, remember, at Allen Avenue?
That's right.
That was the first part of the city for my life. But when it got to Willow Lawn, that for a long time was the end.
That was out of town. I mean, that was
That
was the end of the town.
Right. That and it still is. Across the town,
Lombard Street used to be the end of Richmond. Lombard Street, that was the end of Richmond.
Yes.
That was back in.
Hey, Charles, while we're talking about people who passed on, George Rapey used to have a club out that way. George Rapey had a club called the Chic.
Right. Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Right there in the plaza across from
it was only about what WTVR used to be located out there.
And what's the AVEC Electronics, where we used to pick up all those electronic parts.
That's right.
Staples Mill and Broad.
Staples Mill and Broad, in that little plaza where Best Product was, there was a club called the Chic there. And I tried to book a band there. And George Rapey told me, say, I don't book no all black bands in my club because it'll run the white folks away.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have any white folk in the band with us. So they would book some of the integrated groups, but they wouldn't book a band if all you had was black folks in it. So look, let's get back to some of the people that we're missing. Mr. Barky and Mike, can you all share with us some of the people who have been influential on you all, your music?
Still like that pumping.
Walter.
Walter. Little Walter. Man, if
Oh.
Little Walter knew about this, he'd be here. Man, if
Little
Little
Walter.
Walter knew that this was going on, man, he runs the ad in the paper, in the Free Press. Little Walter, he said he's still the king.
Little Walter was the first live band that I ever saw. The Bonnevilles playing at 10 West Lee.
Yep. Remember that.
I want to mention another name. That's Harry Waller Sr.
Yeah, Harry
Waller family. Harry Waller Sr. Passed away last year. I think it was last year, maybe 2 years now.
Harry Waller family.
He led the Waller family.
Name some people in the music industry that you all remember no longer here.
People from Richmond area.
Yes.
I'm in
You got-
Locally.
I'm not in four.
Oh, man. He thought he could just.
Sterling Harrison, it did not mean Major Harrison.
Right.
And
Yeah, Major Harris, yeah.
Well, I tell you, the most influential person as far as the musician is concerned in my life has been Ben PEYTON. And Johnny PEYTON, it was so strange because several years Ben passed in 1995. And a few years after that, we were talking about, I was talking to someone, I forgot who it was, and we were talking about, they were surprised that PEYTON had passed. And we started talking about PEYTON, and he was saying, what PEYTON? And when we got to the final identity, I was talking about Ben PEYTON, and he was talking about Johnny PEYTON. They passed the same week.
And Johnny PEYTON always encouraged all the musicians, go get your, not just get a college, you get the master's. And Peyton died 3 months before.
And he was John Payton was very influential because he was a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
He influenced a lot of people and a lot of musicians in the Richmond area. One of the musicians used to play with me. I mentioned his name earlier. Albert Mosley used to play guitar and bass.
Mr. Barky, anybody that you can remember, because like you said, you've been here 69 years.
But you
Tommy Johnson. With the
Yeah.
Hummer before.
All three of the sons ended up doing well in music. Ray Smith with the Jarmels. We've interviewed Ray, and then Donald was sang and played flute and piano.
Right.
Listen, Lonnie's back, and we talked to him frequently.
Back in '65 in Maggie Walker, who were the groups that you guys were listening to that was popular during that time?
To look at Maggie Walker. That guy was.
Joe Kennedy.
Yeah.
Joe Kennedy.
Yeah, he played the.
Stacy
Don't leave out Pearl now.
Bonneville.
Yeah. Pearl was playing with the Bonnevilles during that time.
Yeah, Maurice graduated. We were just saying he graduated with Funky in '65.
Right.
And I'm gonna lay out one name, but we supposed to be talking about folks here, but Geraldine Morris.
Girl had quite a band.
Yeah.
She had a band.
Girl had a
band.
Geraldine Morris, guitar player.
Yeah.
They played with the Sweet Inspiration, the Walter, Charles, and all those Morris. Geraldine wanted to have a girl get in the country.
Hey, good.
Came right. He's still alive. Getting rich.
Yes.
Mike is sharing what we talked about John Morris. He's saying that John used to play with him. John was the oldest, right?
Right. He was, and then another one, Andrew, because he pays. But John is just
The whole Morris family played guitar.
Yeah, I played with John Morris for years.
With his daughter.
Charles, remember Charles?
Didn't pick it up. I saw him.
Yeah, Charles Morris. Yeah, Charles, Andrew, John, and Walter.
It appears that when I graduated from high school in 1965, there weren't a lot of previous groups before then. Explosion seemed to happen locally in the music business mid-60s, early 70s.
Right.
And so many groups, Charles, including Brother Love. I know this is you, but it's Brother Love, still Eugene, all of those bands that came along during that late mid 60s era, decade, early 70s. It was just a monster with a lot of music.
Remember Curtis Robb?
Curtis
Robb,
Robb.
saxophone player.
I was
Yes.
trying to contact him recently, but I didn't.
He's still with us.
As far as I know,
Prior to 67, all the band, all the musicians were basically backup. All right. All of us basically backed up a front singer. It used to be called band and show. But Jimmy Hendrix, Sly and the Stone, War, and a few other people, especially Sly, they changed the game too. They changed the paradigm.
They did.
That a self-contained band became the star act. That they had singers, they had musicians, they did it all at Eugene. Like my group, Hustle, all of us, we did it all. And for that reason, the music business changed because now the band was the show band and all the show. The band was singing, band was playing instruments. They just had a different sound. And that's what changed the music industry starting around 67.
And you're right when you consider the fact that music changed from groups and lead singers. When the horn section
There you go.
and when the horn sections like Cliff Noble came in, it popularized the band.
I appreciate all this reflection on history and mentioning these names of so many folks that we all knew at that time or ran in contact with during that time for the Richmond area and all the music that they provided for entertainment and for spiritual enlightenment. I just want to recognize each and every one of you again and thank you for being here. This is Let's Talk Music RVA. And I'm Charles Manson.
Now,
Thank
Bill
you.
McGee, and we thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Barky. Thank you, Mr. Barky, for having us here.
And thank you, Mike Harris.
Thank you for the invitation. God bless you.
And thank you, Maurice, my big brother, Maurice Hopkins.
God bless.
Next time I'm in Richmond, I'll look you up.
God bless. Thank you.
You guys take care.
All right.
Have a blessed day.